Hello and welcome to the Digital New York Baltic Film Festival. My name is Julia Rosita and I'm the head of programs at the festival. It's a real pleasure for us to be welcoming viewers from all over the US this year. It's one of the perks of going digital, even though we unfortunately don't get to meet in person. The festival was established in 2018 and it is presented by the Scandinavia House in New York. It is organized by the Consulate General of Estonia, the Consulate General of Lithuania, and the Consulate General of Latvia in New York. Financial support for the festival comes from the Estonian Film Institute, from the National Film Center of Latvia, and the Lithuanian Film Center, with additional sponsorship by the Lithuanian Culture Institute, the American Latvian Association, and LV100, as well as the Embassy of Latvia in the US. The festival is this year divided into 3 sections, and if you're watching this, you're participating in the second session called Stress and Release, which is screening now October 29th to November 1st. The festival will conclude with one more session in mid-November called Looking Inward and Forward, which we call our Baltic Showcase films. This will take place on November 12th to 15th, and we still have a few tickets left to that final session. So if you like what you saw this weekend, please go to our website and see how you can buy tickets for the final session. Our website is balticfilmfestival.com. So today we're speaking with all 3 directors from our Baltic Thrillers package. If you have not seen all 3 films, there might be some spoilers here, just to give you a heads up. The conversation will be moderated by Maria Reinup. She is someone who has worked in the film industry for a very long time. Amongst other things, she has been the director of the only genre film festival in the Baltics, the Haapsalu Horror and Fantasy Festival in Estonia. She was a creative director of What the Fest, a genre festival in New York, and has served as a senior programmer of the Black Nights Film Festival. She's currently pursuing a path as a filmmaker and is writing her first feature film. So we hope to see more from her in the future. But now I will hand over to Maria, who will introduce tonight's guests.
Thank you, Julie. And yes, hi, my name is Maria. My absolute pleasure to have you in the same setup as me, cozy and safe at home, although I do miss the dark venues of cinemas enlightened by the big screen. Despite that, we are still here and we're gonna talk with 3 great directors from Baltic countries. And I think it is something special because Baltic cinema, in a way, I think has gone through a renaissance of a kind in the last years, really started to blossom more than ever. So I hope you get to see the films, enjoy the films. I definitely did. Particularly as I watched Ignas's Invisible yesterday, I couldn't sleep solid 1.5 hours thinking truth or revenge. So I highly recommend to see more films, as Baltic cinema is really flexing its cinematic muscles. Today's format will be a bit funny, but I hope more spiking to everyone's brain, as the 3 films I found curiously had quite a few similar thematic things. So we're gonna go with quite a few questions that are the same for the directors, and they will answer one by one in a way that I think we're all up and going. But I think the best way to get used to the faces already is that the directors introduce themselves. Do say your name, the film you're here with, what you had for dinner, and we start from north to south. My co-filmmaker Vallo, perhaps you can start.
Hello, I am Vallo Toomla. I'm from Estonia. I'm still a filmmaker. This Pretender was done like 4 years ago, I think. And at the moment, this Pretenders is still the first debut feature fiction film for me. Right now, I'm more concentrated on documentary films, but we'll see what the future brings. And yes, what did I eat? Of course, potatoes. Potatoes for dinner. And yes, I had a good day. Thank you.
Jānis, you're up next.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Jānis Nords. I'm from Riga, Latvia. So my movie is called Form of the Mouse. This is basically directing films and TV commercials is all I do. I don't know anything else. And what I had for dinner, it was a pretty fat tuna sandwich with some white wine, and I hope you know, we guys don't bore you to death today.
And down south, Ignas, please.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ignas Jonynas. I'm a filmmaker from Vilnius, Lithuania. I'm still hungry. I had no dinner, and I made a second my feature is which calls Invisible. And yes, for the moment that's it.
All right. I think we could ease into the talk with the kind of easier kind of question that is normal that comes up to my mind as I watched your films, and the associations to other filmmakers come to your mind. Like, for example, in Vallo's case, I could not think of Haneke as the beautiful composition of actors moving inside the frame, turn into a ballet of a kind. I'm sure, Jānis, you have heard the references to the master horror John Carpenter's The Thing already, and the same for Ignas. Your stark, strong handwriting in filmmaking makes me think of Fincher, or perhaps even my own personal favorite, Hans-Peter Moland. Do you own the accusations that I'm doing now, or do you have perhaps other filmmakers that you aspire by? Vallo, you can start.
In case of Pretenders, yes, I didn't think much of Haneke. Of course, I have seen his films, but and I like his work very much. But in Pretenders' case, I was looking more into French cinema, like works of Dominique Moll and François Ozon. Yes, especially 4 movies by these directors that I checked carefully before I started to make the movie.
What do you think, Jānis?
What do I think about Carpenter? Not sure really. I haven't watched too many films of Carpenter, and not such a big fan of his. And it's you have to be kind of careful in kind of drawing parallels too quickly about, you know, what influences come from where, because you can, like, of course you can watch films together with the DP once you prep the film, or with your production designer, but still anyway it just transforms and becomes something else. If anything, we were looking at the photographs by, there's an American guy called Gregory Crutzen. He does this kind of like staged wide shots. So for some of the things we were just kind of a little bit taking that into account, but as I said, it's kind of, it's a thin ice to kind of like look for parables, you know, too much.
Yeah, I think parables work when you kind of go Tarantino style. You take the idea, the essence, what works, and you use that rather than the actual thing. I'm a massive fan of Gregory Crutzen, so I'm curious to hear that. Ignas, do you say
yeah,
no?
I think the Fincher is one of the guys who inspired me, especially movie 7. But Invisible based mostly in cinematic way, from the roots. I think it's film noir, and maybe neo noir some part, maybe some early Coen's films. But yeah, like Jānis said, I'm not sure that I'm so strict with my roots in this film. So yeah, but definitely film noir inspired me a lot regarding picture. Maybe some photographies, maybe like Vigi from Alice, New York, 20th century beginning photographer who made a lot of crime photography. So that's maybe inspired a little bit too. But nice. Yeah, film noir maybe the most.
I think we cannot kind of get over from the questions of where do these stories came to you and how. Particularly, I would start with Vallo, because he has this rare position that's not common in Baltic cinema, and perhaps even in Estonian cinema, by being a director on hire who hasn't, you know, birthed his own personal baby, and yet there was something in the script that you liked, that talked to you. What was that talked to you when you read the script, and how much did you have time to work with the script writers, kind of perhaps molding it more to your liking before you started to shoot the film?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, that's true, that the occasion was like that this script was offered to me, and And if I remember right, then there were also some other options, some other directors who did read it. But after talking with the scriptwriters, producer and the scriptwriters decided to stick with me. So it was a kind of casting process also going on. But when I did read the script, I think it was second or third draft. And I saw there some kind of potential that I enjoyed, and also for me, I realized that it's an opportunity to make a long feature film. After first reading, I had a really good feeling about the script. I thought that it's not like completed script, but there were like ways to work with it. At the same time, it was the first time that I had to work with scriptwriters. Before that, I always wrote my own short film scripts. So we had time to work with the script, I think about 1 year. But both of us scriptwriters it was their debut and it was my debut. And we got quite good friends during this time. At the same time, they rewrote the script. I think it was the 5th draft that we went to shoot. But I don't remember that I was extremely happy with the script. So from my position, to be honest, if I now remember right, then yes, we went to shoot the script that I wasn't in love with. So, but yes, it was a lesson for me, a good lesson in terms of working with scriptwriters. I didn't have like good skills to guide them, I think, at this moment. And also the situation I did put myself into maybe wasn't 100% truthful in this sense that maybe these kind of films are not really my cup of tea, I think now 4 years later. But yes, there were some topics that I still enjoy and like I really liked in terms of this story that it had this kind of mystical aspect that at these times I really enjoyed, that nothing is really clear and there is some kind of suspense and potential thriller elements. But and the topic that I'm into, what is real and what is not real, and playing with these kind of themes from human existence position point of view, that maybe we're not, that we're living in an illusion and we don't, or our brain creates a safe place for us to be here. And these kind of things are still interesting for me, and found these topics also in the story. But yes, right now, 4 years later, I think maybe it wasn't the best story for me to make a first feature film.
Thanks for a very honest, spoken word here. I think this is a good start. Jānis, I think your script is actually an adaptation from an American story.
Yes.
How did your story come to be? What was the element that was talking into it to you as a filmmaker?
There was something in the original American script that I liked. There was a parable basically of a love triangle slowly going toxic, and then there is this kind of like company of three dogs who are slowly going mad or rabid. for the lack of a better word. So that felt like, I was reading it and it felt like that's kind of a nice misanthropic way of speaking about love and relationships and you know, all those things that we tend to kind of look at more romantically usually. And there was some kind of misanthropic darkness about it that I liked, because just before, not just before, but before that, I had done a children's movie, which was actually also, which also had elements of crime in it and stuff like that, but which still kind of like a children's world movie. So I thought when kind of finishing that, I saw like, oh, you know, how not to end up in the same river again, you know, and not to end up making cute films about kids. So I kind of went stylistically and thematically totally in an opposite direction to what my instincts would normally go on, and stuff like that. So that was something interesting. But of course, that was a very, very American story with some kind of very American cliches. Not cliches, but just ways of kind of like how, I don't know, how relationships are organized. And when you read the script, actually, you realize they are quite different than here, especially involving kind of like school, church, and kind of like little kind of community relationships and hierarchies and all those things. So that couldn't be used at all. So that just wouldn't work here, and that needed kind of a overhaul, which I tried to do myself with varying success, sometimes better, sometimes less. But anyway, it was a good, you know, it was just a good opportunity to take a shot at it. And yeah.
Thank you.
I think that's about it. Yeah.
I think it's a really fun. At least to me, there was quite a lot of dark humor in the film that I really liked, but perhaps
there is of course there is that kind of thing, but it's also kind of like looking now back at it, I feel like, you know, that guy shouldn't, you know, probably he shouldn't have killed that many dogs in one movie, you know, like in a row, but that's, you know, let's see.
I thought it was a great symbol on kind of finally letting go, in a way, getting rid of his own rabies that have made him crazy. So I don't know, I love the film. Ignas, when I saw first The Gambler, I was mind blown years ago for such a strong director to come on the scene. And later when I learned that it took 4 years to write the script, it started to make a little bit sense to me. So my question to you is that how long did it take to write Invisible, and where do directors find such amazing script writing partners as it seems to me that you have found for yourself?
Yeah, it's a surprisingly happy thing to find a ping pong partner in this mind ping pong partner. And my friend of mine, Kristupas Sabolius, he's a philosopher. He's philosophy professor in Vilnius University. He's younger and more clever than me, to be honest. And I tried to find the partner who can help me to go through in my debut film. And then we find that we can do the same second take, let's say, with the Invisible, and it works for me. Of course, when you are writing not alone, it means that you will spend more time and you'll drink much more coffee, that leads you to more deeper understanding what you are doing, but at the same time you spend much more time. So we start with, just from some ideas, not even about the script, but about the things which bother us. And this time we wanted to manipulate with the audience, because the topic of the film is manipulation, is how to find the truth in our world. So we're playing double, let's say. And it took quite long. I would say it's mostly three or 4 years actually. So, but it doesn't mean that we are writing only on weekends or on the evening. It means that we are doing all the way through, not each day, but all time long. And yeah, it's more difficult to write with someone, I think. maybe only in my case, maybe not for others, but yeah, that's how we work. We started with the first film. We wanted to be how to say, easygoing guys, and we tried to just write mails for each other. One scene you writing, next one me, but it looks like we are go to the nowhere, and we understood that we should discuss much more, and then only after that we should share our episodes, and we try to lose our author's voice. We rewriting each other scenes. When you completely forget who is the owner of the idea. So we're erasing our authorities, let's say.
One of the things that I find really interesting is that in all of the three films, toxic masculinity, or the perhaps lack of it, deceit and lies, and deceit perhaps down to the spiral of human's own spirit are present. And the idea of toxic masculinity is especially really well portrayed through a man who's lost his dignity, or perhaps perspective on his future, or perhaps doesn't have it. And if you put a woman in the game, then he warps up his manhood to an extent that perhaps scares the woman away, and that's where the lies and deceit kind of come along. Are these just great tools to put into narrative drama, or are these topics also personal to you? You can start, Ignas.
I can see that it's very personal for me, and yeah, I understand that some kind of male-ish things are leading my hero through all the film. It's actually it's a classical triangle, love triangle in a way, all this film, all the story, and I'm not sure that I can say that I have some thoughts when I started to write the script, what it should be, the hero, who should be. Maybe the theme itself leads us to some stories, and this masculinity, yeah, I agree that there is, but it's like the end of masculinity more for me, all the story, the collapse of masculinity.
I think this is perfect to move the same question to Vallo.
Yeah, the same thing with Pretenders. It's the story is very much based on Juhan's non-ability to be like a kind of masculine guy, and a person who's afraid to make choices and decisions. And traditionally, a man has been a kind of leader or guide. But this film is somehow reflecting the changing world. That these balances are changing, and it's connected with confusion, and that the roles are changing, and we don't know where it is going to. And I think it's how I see it. It's a good thing that this toxic masculinity hopefully is somehow ending its story. But at the same time, I believe that there has to be then some kind of compensation, and we don't know yet how it will come out in our world or in our minds in the future, or even right now. We don't really maybe see it yet. But yes, the topic is very much connected with this lack of masculinity, or how it ends slowly. Yeah.
Jānis, do you have something to add from your film's perspective?
Yeah, I think in general the term toxic masculinity is, I think it's tired I think it's been brought into the conversation during the last couple of years. I'm not sure anybody knows what it really means, because if you take a movie by John Huston, for example, from the 50s, The Misfit, you know, with Marilyn Monroe and all those things, is that about toxic masculinity? No, it's just about people making mistakes, trying to cover up with them, coming up with deceits, or trying to kind of blunt force to, you know, to solve their life problems. So this kind of whole toxic masculinity thing is a little bit hollow. For me, it's just, as you yourself mentioned in the very beginning, lies and deceit, those are things that definitely work on the screen. In my own filmography, they appear always because it's such a great tool to work with. It's a lovely thing to make actors do, to make, you know, and if you give lies in the hands of a good actor, he will definitely catch the attention of the viewer. And I think the whole masculinity, femininity thing is just is just a way of constructing drama. There is some kind of a problem. Somebody tries to overcome this problem with these tools. You know, these tools become even more problematic, and so on and so on. So I would not, at least talking about my movie, kind of try and draw this kind of very contemporary, modern terminology just to describe it. I would just say this is good, old, cool drama tools that make things work and push things forward. Whether it's toxic masculinity, I don't know. You know, there's something too fancy, smelling too fancy in that word. Is that so? I'm just saying. Say again. Sorry.
What I like about the three films is the idea that the man pushes so far to live up his manhood, or is so scared that he doesn't live up his manhood, that with that he actually scares what he likes away. In a way, to me, it was a really nice experience to see that same thing, which is very human and beautiful actually throughout the three films. But one of the things that also is common in all the three films is the portrayal of nature. Untamed and wild in Jānis's film, perhaps a place of freedom and rejoicing in Vallo's film, and definitely a pure and sacred place in Ignas's film. Was there something very particular in your mind in creating these contrasts? Ignas, you can maybe start.
Yeah, it was a very important part of in our story, even in the script. And unfortunately, we didn't shoot some parts of the film because we had enough budget, and there was the much more longer story with these gears in the film, which starts and ends with them. Unfortunately, we didn't do this, but it's okay. It's happened, and it's too late to say sorrow. But yes, we are talking about the truth in our film, and actually, all the film is a lie. And only nature don't lie, I would say. So that was like contrast for all the storyline which happened with the heroes, with the all personages in the film, and the most stable and most truthful thing in the film is the nature.
Vallo?
Yes, for me also, of course, the film is very much like 1 hour of the film is in the house, but that has really strict lines, and it's you can see it's built by a human being, and of course we then there was an idea to find contrast to this kind of, so that the house would be away from other buildings, in this sense, in emptiness, that there are no cities or neighbors nearby. At least we don't see any other buildings nearby. Only just maybe in the end of the film we get a glimpse that there is also civilization around. So we were looking for a place that is quite alone, and so that it would feel like a kind of, at least in Estonian context, this nature would feel like kind of paradise-like place that would that you really would like to be there in this nature. That it would be really a place where you would like to have your holiday and rest there. And also, of course, nature is in the film is always reflecting also human emotions or emotions of the characters, and there is an opportunities to play with these elements. Yeah.
I liked how they arrived at the paradise and it turns out to be perhaps the worst idea that they had in a while.
Yes, there was like an idea for me, at least. There was, I don't remember all the ideas anymore, which I had when I made the movie. There were quite a lot of high concepts. But yes, there was the idea that this house is a kind of like a machine that takes these characters in and then choose them and then lets them out in the end. And but actually, they were like in this paradise-like place, and they were stupid enough to ruin their chance to be there and to really enjoy their lives and to be to live normal lives, or to have something, to have a really special time there, and this is like also like a kind of situation overall in our world that I think we live in a very fantastic place that we don't know how to embrace or how to be here.
Jānis, did you have a specific intention with portrayal of nature in your film?
Besides that, it happens most in the forest. No, but if honestly, then no. Of course, there is this kind of nature parable going in the film, in the sense that there were a couple of these kind of high concepts when thinking about the story and kind of when putting it together. You know, it was about, you know, this grown-up woman. She knows with her intelligence that she shouldn't sleep or, you know, have an affair with this kid in the school, but she still but she still does it. You know, so this kind of like natural instinct takes over the culture or whatever the you know the kind of the civilization or whatever, and that, you know, and she kind of has this kid. And that's when this kind of wild boar comes out of the forest, you know, this kind of like this kind of like primordial beast, this instinctive beast comes out and then starts the trouble. So there were of course these kind of like things in there. I often find it more interesting to talk about them, also to make the movie when you're kind of playing around things. They become kind of like murkier and kind of sometimes heavy. Once the movie is done, you want to get rid of that, and then you just want the movie to happen. And you know, and it takes all course, and you don't have it down anymore with the idea before. But of course, there is this, you know, there is rabbis going, and there is this wild boar coming out of the forest, you know, moment. And you know, it is of course about this arc that's in there. I'm a big fan of nature. I don't think about in romantic terms, as it's quite soon. Yes.
Okay, just to check.
That was the end of it.
So just to check, did everybody hear?
I had some interruptions.
Yeah, me too. Not all of it.
Okay.
The end part I didn't hear anymore.
Yes. So, Jānis, how is your connection going? If you speak now, do we hear you better?
Still some interruption.
I'm hearing all of you guys, and I'm seeing all of you guys.
All right.
Do you hear me and do you see me?
We kind of hear you, kind of see you. So we're trying to figure out what is the best solution for a moment now. I think we'll continue with the next question, and meanwhile, Jānis, check your messages. I think we have to also talk a little bit about the casting and the actors in the films, because from each film, somebody had to learn to do something, either possibly drive a boat or learn to dance or to figure out how to do dog fights. So I think Jānis, actually in your film is the most of challenges in a way. How did you get your actors, and what was the biggest challenge with all the action going on in the film?
Actually, I was very lucky with my main actor. He was super eager, you know, just basically getting up 5 o'clock in the morning to go and train together with the dogs. And I was quite lucky to have a guy like that, because afterwards I thought if there was a guy who was even a little bit afraid of dogs, or would be kind of like more reserved, or would kind of have more formal attitude towards the whole process, I would have lost a lot. But that Vilnis Daudziņš who was playing, he did an amazing job. He was basically 200% in there, and kind of hanging out with people who train dogs and kind of like, you know, spending time with them. And then by the end of the movie, he was basically an expert in how to deal with dogs, even very aggressive ones. So I would say I was, you know, I owe a lot to an actor, and then to about 9 dog trainers that came from Hungary, and everyone working with his own animal and doing his own stuff. So, you know, so it's just, you know, I'm grateful to a great team that I had.
I think he won even best performance also, I think very rightly deserved. So in Latvia, am I correct?
Yes, he did. That's correct.
Ignas, your character not only plays a blind person, but also both of the characters have to dance, and not only dance, but pretty heavy, beautiful, modernized choreographies that are not perhaps even easy for a professional dancer. How did you find your actors? How is the choreography perhaps not only rehearsed, but put into the film? Because it feels like you had thought about the choreography long before they actually started rehearsing.
It's, you know, it's always the same answer. When you are in deep trouble, try to find your friends, because they can do everything. So the main actor, Dainius Kazlauskas, is my classmate and very good friend of mine. He is a brilliant actor, and I knew that in the school time he was a ballet dancer, not the ballet, but the ballroom dancer, sport, or how, I don't know in English they call it, sport dance. So, but it was like 20 years ago, and I asked him, "Would you like to back in your 90s and try to do what you did in school time?" So he was brave enough, and we had very long, few months sessions. And I really happy that choreographer Martynas Rimeikis, he's the guy who like improvisations, and he liked to be in a known field. It was first time for him to work in the film, and the most of the things I participated in some rehearsals, and the most of the things they did in rehearsals. They're creating together everything. It's kind of one of his idea that one guy start the movement, and his partner or her partner continue the same movement, and that's how it goes, step by step, movement after movement. He creates this choreography. So There's a little bit sad story with the main female actress, because first it was a ballet dancer, but I had some troubles with acting, and I just a few weeks before shooting I should change her, and unfortunately, but Paulina Tolenskaitė, who participated lately in the film, she was fantastic, and in such a short time she did all the choreography, and it was like the same with the dogs in Jānis film. She wake up at 5 or 6 and go to the rehearsal. So that was the hard time for her, and I really appreciate this time that she gave us. And the antagonist, Darius Bagdžiūnas, he's a businessman actually in life. It was the first time in the film. He's not a professional actor, so he was brave enough to try a new career. So that was this trio.
Did you pick him out personally for his pretty menacing look? Yeah,
I knew him. I knew from the commercial field, and I know that he's the guy who is interested in many things, in literature, in cinema, in music, in heavy parties, everywhere. You can find him everywhere in Vilnius. So I thought that it's a good chance to try something not ordinary.
Very nice. Vallo, you went in for your first feature film with possibly a script that wasn't perhaps exactly it, as you say, with a heavy artillery of Estonian actors who are all really, really great. How did that come together, and did any of them have to learn something specific?
Well, yes, I casted all the actors. I think I had a kind of casting session with altogether 15 different Estonian actors. I made interviews with them, and then with half of them, I worked on. I did some scene with them during casting, and played. There were like 4 characters, main characters in the film, and then I changed the partners and tried to find the best group for the film that would really work for the concept I had. And during this casting, I also decided to change a little bit the concept that I had, because it seemed that these 4 actors are the best for the film, at least in the situation we had. And there was one actor casted for Erik's role, another actor, but unfortunately his schedule was so tight that he decided for another movie, and then we changed one actor. But I'm really happy that I had an opportunity to work with Meelis then. That is also a great actor in Estonia. And yes, what they had to learn. Of course, Priit, I think, Juhan's character, he had to learn really quickly, how to ride a motor boat, a fast one. and Myrtel, who had to swim quite a lot, she's really afraid of water, so she took some swimming classes and just to overcome her fears. And swimming things underwater and in darkness were really challenging to her. But she was very brave, and we, with some emotional stuff, but still we could manage to film these things.
Yeah. The last common thing I would bring out before we close on or continue, let's see how we feel, is the genuine idea that every character in all throughout the films deals with false expectations to some extent. And it made me wonder, perhaps we can discuss, what do you think makes false expectation in this society, and is there a cure against it possibly?
Very fundamental question.
Sorry?
Very fundamental question, I would say.
Beautiful, demented question.
Fundamental, he said.
Oh, I heard demented.
No, fundamental.
Because it made me really wonder, and I think you have already dealt by thinking about it as you made these films, or perhaps we deal with this every day. Do we have a cure for it? What makes it in the first place?
Who wants to be the first one?
You start, Vallo. You should.
Yeah. False expectations. Well, I'm not sure that we have a cure for that, because we are human beings, and we're like social beings, and we depend from each other, and everything we do or say is somehow influenced by others, or we have influence to others, and we depend very much from these influences. Or then this, after that, if I've said this verse, then it seems the only solution is to be alone. But thanks to that we are social beings, and that we sometimes use tools or weapons that and techniques that are maybe not so nice always, like lying, for example. Like I understand, like in every movie, it's also a topic. In a way, we will lie every day. In a way, to others or to ourselves, and probably there is some kind of use case, because thanks to that we have this kind of civilization that we have. Is it bad or is it good? I don't know exactly. For some people it's a good civilization. For some people it's not so good civilization. We have culture. That's a great thing. Where it's going, we can see some signs, but at the same time everything is like repeating, and until human being stays naturally how we have been on this planet, then I think there is no cure. But at the same time, well, okay, now I'm starting to talk about things that are not connected to the movie. But just how to be brief, that there are signs that maybe in the future human beings are more and more somehow, our lives become more and more, how to say, automatic or automated, and influenced by technology, and also maybe some programming in terms of biology. Then maybe this kind of topic will be ended. These false expectations. We can somehow everyone can live in our perfect world. Who knows? But then again, I have a feeling that then there is something else that pops up again, some kind of compensation that comes out and changes our lives, and for artists, if there will be art, have still work to do and deal with this kind of human problems, even if we become more and more similar and everything becomes more automated. Who knows? Hopefully not. So yes, I don't think that there is a cure, only loneliness, to be totally alone. But as human beings, as social animals, false expectations and lying to ourselves is part of the game. And it somehow, even if it hurts and it's hard, it somehow helps us also.
I think for picking on your brain on a random moment question, this is actually a great answer. Ignas?
Yeah, I agree with Vallo in a way, and I would say that we are pushed to be something special, and society pushes us to be something, to reach something. If you are not reaching, your life means nothing, and that's the where the fake things arrives. You're trying to be someone, or to show something, to be in some level, let's say. Of course, it's absolutely nonsense, but the society built on such expectations that you should reach something, then your life means something, and that's the hardest part. And if you are not powered or not manipulative enough, it's quite difficult to go through all these things from early child years. I don't know. Is it the answer? I don't know.
I think there is a kind of one-way answer to this. I think it's just something that is interesting to reflect on, because if we, the artists, don't reflect on it, then it's kind of a sad world. Yeah,
and that's in a way, it's the part of our theme in my film, that it's really difficult to find truth, even if you don't know, is it the truth, or you should still try to search it and to look at it. And mostly it is the answer somewhere inside of you, and that's the hardest part, how to be honest with yourself. Because when you fake something outside, immediately you change something inside. I think so. I think this is actually such an amazing point to perhaps finish here, unless Jānis, you don't have something great to add, because the idea of honesty inside and the way it is reflected outside is the ever-going quest of every single person, and I think it's a lovely way to come out of a film talk.
It's a lovely way to come out of the film talk. I agree.
So thank you, all of you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you.
It was absolutely a pleasure. I feel like we now really met, and perhaps the audience too, in a whole different personal way. It's been absolute pleasure to seek each other's films out, and those of you who are there, stay safe and sound at home. Enjoy the films, and seek for that honesty within.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.